dun, 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 dun. Icônica. Have you ever spent years trying to repair yourself, fix yourself, only to find out that you're trying to escape yourself? I never felt normal. I felt that something inside of me, something in the way that my brain works was wrong. So I work harder, I train harder, I try to become more impressive, more productive, more successful. But there's a hidden illusion behind self-development. Sometimes the desire to improve your life is secretly self-rejection. And when improvement is driven by rejection, you can never find peace. Because it doesn't matter how much you achieve, that voice inside of your head keeps telling you it's not enough. When I was growing up, when I was probably about 12, is when I started to realize that I was bigger than the other girls. My shoulders were broader and my thighs were thicker, and at that time you didn't see yourself, oh, you're stronger, you have more muscles. No, you are bigger, therefore there's something wrong with you, therefore you cannot be accepted. And then you start internalizing that, because in my house my appearance was always commented, my weight was an issue, and the word lazy was thrown around a lot of times. And when that happens, when we are children, we don't have much to compare ourselves to, so we begin to create our identities from what other people are saying. And when someone calls you the same things all over again, you start to believe in that and start to create an identity around it. To give you an example, I'm gonna use the Black Swan, the movie. She believes that perfection is the only way to be accepted. We notice that aim for perfection doesn't come from ambition, but comes from fear, and that perfection becomes a survival strategy. So, since perfection was the only way to be accepted, I can see myself as far from perfection, that created some chaos in my mind. A lot of turmoil of wanting to be and resenting it at the same time, because I could never do enough. I could never be enough. I was so far from the outcome that I expected, that the life that I was living was so wrong, so different from what I felt like I deserved, it was nothing at all at the same time. So what could I grasp on? I would grasp on that belief that somehow that perfection could be attainable, because if I put ambition and work towards it, it can be attained. Where I'm going to go with this is that the perfection that was sold to me at the time, it was not the perfection that I aim for today. Because for now, I still aim to be perfect. I still aim to create the perfect outfit, to paint the perfect picture, to do the perfect presentation. And let me tell you, from a number of times I can do it, because the perfection that now I see, that it's very imperfect in its own chaos, can be achieved from not removing nothing else from it. But the perfection that was sold to me at the time was the good girl perfection, the don't do mistakes or you are gonna be punished, or you are going to be not so worthy in my eyes, to the world, to my parents, to teachers, to coaches. The perfection that now I can create and obtain, it's only through my eyes and not everyone else's. But bringing it back to that time, the perfection that I was aiming for, the unrealistic one, the one that they told me I needed to be, had a hidden cost. And that cost is a chaos mind, a mind that cannot rest because it cannot predict what it's aiming for. So what should I be if I cannot be myself? There must be these rules, these guidelines, because otherwise I cannot do it, because that perfection doesn't came from myself. I trained a lot. I trained 6 to 7 times. I went to school, I did everything, but I was always tired. I was resenting a life that someone created for myself that I was not enjoying. How could I push and demand the best out of my body while resenting it at the same time? And that led to a lot of insecurity, a lot of people pleasing, a lot of isolation and unworthiness. You know Zuko from The Last Airbender. It's one of my favorite characters. His story is that he isolates himself in search for the approval and the love that from the people that he doesn't even love. He believes that if he proves himself, he was finally gonna be worthy. And so he learns how to love himself, how to forgive himself, and that's the way he realized that the love that he was trying to get, he doesn't need it. Throughout my life, I was living in this cage, and when that cage opened and I found myself a lot of freedom, the only way I could live is by sabotaging myself, because that's what I wanted to do all those times. And when that time came, I made some really bad choices. I hurt people that I've loved, I sabotage relationships, I sabotage friendships, I sabotage myself. There was one time when I was living in a small room with no windows, and I was supposed to go to class, I was supposed to study, but I couldn't do it. I was trapped in my own subconscious, living dreadful of the voices inside my head all the time. I slept like 12 hours a day, I drank a lot of coffee, I smoked a lot, I drank a lot, I was partying constantly. I was in a black hole and there was no light in the end of the tunnel. I can see now that in that period of time, the more I was telling myself that life sucks and bad things happen to me, bad things always kept happening to me. And the chaos outside of myself was a reflection of the chaos inside of me. When you start to realize, when you believe that you are fundamentally flawed, you start to live yourself. You start to live life in the way that confirms it. Tolerate things that you never accepted any other way. But that was the first time that I was obligated to face something that I was avoiding all those years, and that was the voices inside my head. that constant narrator that was telling me that I was not enough. From that point back, I believe everything that my mind was telling me. All the bad things that I was, that I did, everything that was bad that was going to happen in the future, I believed it all. I remember perfectly when my mind shifted. It's like a moment that is going to be photographed in my mind forever. I started smoking weed. And one day, many years after I started smoking, when I did all those bad things, I moved around, I was trying to live a simpler life. I was in my bed and I was smoking, I was high, and somehow that documentary called The Secret came in my computer. So maybe even in that time I could see myself in the future with this positive mentality, a mentality that was the opposite of what I was going through at the moment. Because if I could create such a horrible life for myself using only the power of my mind, what could I create if I think positively and really imagine things going always the right way? Then I started meditating, but that was many years from that moment. That moment led me to the realization that not every thought needs to be entertained, and what goes on in here is what creates the outside reality. This was like maybe 2019. So the voice in my head was not actually me. What I've been hearing with other voices, other critics, other beliefs, and that creates a pattern, a habit of thoughts repeated years after years. So in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, one cannot be confronted by our thoughts because we are not them, we are the observer. And if you are the observer, not your thoughts, you cannot be controlled or imprisoned by them. By around that time, I read a book that was maybe the first book that really changed me and my perception of myself. That's called The Highly Sensitive Person by Dr. Elaine N. Aron. The whole book is about this kind of people, which I deduced it was me. People like me, we process the outside world, our environment, way more deeply. And for so many years, I didn't understand this sensitivity, how I was so burned out, how other people left me with no energy, why some environments were so too much for myself. I thought that I was weak. I thought that I was emotional, too affected by things that some people just ignored. But the book showed me that this sensitivity was not a flaw, it was a different way of perceiving the world. And the same nervous system that maybe gets a little too offended by criticism is the same nervous system that captures the beauty of the rarest and most random things. It's the same sensitivity that grasps beauty so intensively. And that's something to be cherished and to be appreciated. So the problem was not my high sensitivity, it was the way that I regulated it. And with that book and other one that I highly recommend is The Untangled Souls, I start to come back to myself. Everything changed. Before that, training was a punishment, and now it becomes regulation. It becomes a manifestation of my love for my body and myself. Breathing became the anchor to the outside world, the thing that would give me such high and pleasure that would activate me and downregulate me. For years, I've been holding my breath, bracing myself, learning to breathe slowly. Sounds very simple, but it's really the best way to regulate our nervous system. And when it feels safe, it can't really start to rest. That rest became clarity, and the war inside of me became a little quieter. I started trusting my intuition a lot more. I start choosing what feels calm and not what feels familiar. Looking back now, I really didn't waste my 20s just hating myself. I was doing all the mistakes that I was supposed to do, so now I can have a better life. What cost me most of the times was believing that the mistake was me. For years, I controlled my life as someone who tries to control the ocean, pushing harder, resisting every wave. But eventually, you realize you can't control the ocean. You can't fight the waves. You become calm when you learn how to swim with it. You gain calm by learning how to move with it. And for the best part of my 20s, I was swimming against myself. Now I finally learn how to swim with who I am. And strangely, that acceptance has created more strength that all of those years I spent trying to prove myself.